Hey everybody, what's going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. So we're finally coming back to Labrynth for this season. This is one of the decks that I usually tend to save for later, just because it's one of the decks that I usually tend to play once I get to like Master 5, because I would say this and Branded Despia are probably two of the meta decks that I am personally least confident in how well I can play them. Just because I don't play the decks very often, and the lines tend to be very open-ended a lot of the time, so I feel like a lot of the time I do tend to play Labrynth a little bit less than optimally, but you know, there's always good reason to practice for not only personal improvement just with the deck in general, but also so that you can know how to play against it as well. That's actually a lot of the reason I do like to practice Lab, is so that I can most effectively play against the deck. For this build that I have here, I decided to go with one that was relatively generic, right? One that just played a lot of, again, mostly generic cards, so that way I could get an overall good feel for how the deck tends to play overall. And then, you know, once I learn a deck more is when I like to put in more specific tech. But this deck did get a pretty significant upgrade from the latest selection pack, and that is going to be the inclusion of Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon. So, this card is used to not only, of course, stop big boards from comboing by turning everything face down, but perhaps even more importantly, what this card is capable of doing is it can get rid of Towers monsters. So the way this card is worded is that if either player controls a face-up monster, they must send all face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. So much like Evenly, which actually forces the player to do the sending and therefore gets around unaffected card effects, the same is true of the Karma Cannon here, because you, the player, are the one sending your card to the graveyard. A card that says unaffected by effects or unaffected by activated effects or whatever is still going to end up being affected by it. So it's funny, when I would play Sprite and I would play against Lab before this card came out, a lot of times I think to myself, well, it's okay, I just need to make the Max with IP, and they really can't out that. But that's definitely not true anymore. So that is a huge power boost to Labrynth, and it's a lot of the reason why you're seeing a lot more Labrynth. And honestly, I think I might even consider Lab to be a tier 1 deck in this meta, and Karma Cannon is a good amount of the reason for it. Not only because it overall boosts the power level of the deck, but it is particularly good against Kashtira and Pearly, which are two of the other big powerhouses of this meta. And again, it's just a good card overall. So for this build in particular, as far as some of the quote-unquote tech slots I've got here, I'm playing some Fenrirs and Ash Blossoms because, again, I just wanted to play some more staple cards and get a feel for how the deck plays overall, rather than with like hyper-specific techs. But I've seen people use Gamma to good effect in this deck because, of course, it's very good against Ash Blossom, against your welcome cards. Tackle Crusader. For those who don't remember the card from Adamantipator, I'll go ahead and pull it up here. Tackle Crusader, actually really good in this deck. That might seem a bit weird. It's like, this is a rock monster. What is it doing in Labrynth? Well, because it activates no matter how it gets sent to the graveyard, you can discard this card with your furniture, your Stovie and your Chandragalier. And you can do that as a quick effect to turn one of your face-up opponent's monsters face down as a quick effect, or also bounce a spell or a trap card and they can't reactivate at that turn. So being able to use this card as a quick effect, again with the help of the furniture cards, ends up being really, really good. You can also use the Shizu Shufflers, Mudora, and Keldo for the same reason. Again, you can pitch them with the furniture, and that'll set them up in the graveyard as interaction against your opponent there. I've seen quite a few of the Labrynth builds be on Skill Drain. I'm not playing the card myself. Instead, I'm teching stuff like the Eradicator virus and the Dimensional Barrier, as well as the Ice Dragon's Prison, and of course the Dogmatika Punishment. One thing I will say about my build in particular, especially about my extra deck, is that it's definitely not optimized. In a perfect world, if I were willing to, like, if Labrynth was going to be my main deck, right, and I'm like, okay, I'm, like, just going to play Labrynth, then I would absolutely spend the UR for 2 more Chaos Angels for a total of 3, as well as at least 1 more Entis, probably just the 1 more, you only really need 2, but that would be a lot more effective with the Pot of Extravagance, It really, really sucks to have these cards end up getting banished off the Extrav, but that said, Extrav is just such a good advantage engine for this deck because you really don't need the extra deck that much. That said, you know, the N-Test being sent off the punishment matters, and I will say that being able to make Chaos Angel does matter quite a bit, and comes up in a lot more matchups than you may realize. So having consistent access to this card is absolutely worth. Plus, it's a Fiend, right? So, like, even if you get Fiend locked, it's not like you can't summon this, so. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to cover with this build? Not really. Again, like I said, this is a pretty generic build. So, I played this in the Duelist Cup before I hit max level, so around Duelist level. It was when I hit 17, actually, is when I started playing Labrynth. So, all the games that you're going to be seeing for this deck profile are going to be Duelist Cup games from Duelist level 17. So, let's go ahead and break down the list card by card as soon as I take a sip of water, and then we'll see those games. Okay, so we are on 2 Labrynth Cooclock, 3 Maxx, 3 Labrynth Stovie Torbie, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 Labrynth Chandragalier, 3 Arianna the Labrynth Servant, 2 Kashtira Fenrir, 1 Lovely Labrynth of the Silver Castle, 2 Lady Labrynth of the Silver Castle, 1 Nibiru the Primal Being, 2 Pot of Extravagance, 1 Pot of Prosperity, 1 Labrynth Labyrinth, 1 Eradicator Epidemic Virus, 1 Dimensional Barrier. We got 3 Infinite Impermanence, 1 Dogmatika Punishment, 1 Ice Dragon's Prison, 2 Welcome Labrynth, 1 Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon, and of course, we have 3 Big Welcome Labrynth. So, yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it for the main deck. Now, for the extra deck, we are 1 Elder Entity Entis, 1 Garura Wings of Restorant Life, 1 PSY-Framelord Omega, 1 Chaos Angel, 1 Bagosska, the terribly tired Tapir, 1 Mereologic Aggregator, 1 Divine Arsenal, AA-ZEUS Sky Thunder, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy, 3 Muckraker from the Underworld, 1 Sky Striker Ace Azalea, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and then 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. So yeah, that'll go ahead and do it for the list. Let's see some gameplay now. Oh goodness, you know, this happens every time we're in Duelist Cup season. I go to click on these games and I'm like, my instinct kicks in to say the deck's name that I'm up against, and I'm like, I can't check that. That's right. So, we're going to start with a going first game. This is a pretty good turn 1 hand we got here. Going to start, of course, with the Pot of Extravagance, and it ends up hitting the... Oh, actually, we managed to dodge both the Chaos Angel and the N-Test on this one. That's cool. Oh, 2 phenomenal draws. Oh my god. Getting Arianna and Cooclock here. This hand is disgusting. This hand is disgustingly good. So, one thing that I've learned a lot from other players who main Labrynth, like Evilise and I Wish I Was Dead, who I've been chatting with just to get a better idea of how this deck works, or who I've chatted with in the past. We had Evilise on for our last Labrynth deck profile. Absolutely go check that out, by the way, because she offers a lot of insight into this deck, because she is, of course, an expert on this deck. But I was talking with I Wish I Was Dead recently, who topped with this deck in MCS Season 2 Week 1, and both players offered the suggestion of running the Lovely Labrynth out first. That way your opponent cannot use Ash Blossom in response to your following welcome cards, because of this first line here. Your opponent cannot activate monster effects in response to your normal trap cards. Also, tends to be a pretty good effect just overall. We even get to reset the Welcome Lab and then set 3 more cards. This is disgustingly good. The fact that I opened with so many good normal trap cards, this is like the apex of what Labrynth likes to do on turn 1, which is why I wanted to start off with this duel. So, Poto's going to start off with a Gift Exchange. Oh, I remember this game now. And I just realized my opponent doesn't have an extra deck. So, again, this was DL17, so maybe because we couldn't rank down, my opponent was just kind of like messing around, but both players are going to end up banishing a card from their deck's face down. If they do during the end phase of this turn, both players add the card that they banished to their opponent's hand. So, I'm going to end up banishing the Labrynth Cooclock, because I was looking through my deck and I was like, what's the most useless thing I can give them? And I was like, okay, Cooclock, because it doesn't do anything at all for them. But then I'm like, what are they trying to do here? So, they activate Mausoleum of the Emperor. I'm like, okay, some amount of shenanigans are going down. So I'm going to play the Big Welcome now to run out the Lady Labrynth and bounce the Arianna. Then I can use Labrynth Labyrinth to blow up their field spell. And they can't summon whatever tribute monster they wanted to go for. So I'm blowing up a card in their hand. I see a Pointer of the Red Lotus. And I'm seeing these two cards that both pay a lot of life points. And I'm like, alright, is this a self-TK deck for missions? And they play Exchange. And I'm like, I don't know what is even going on in this game anymore. So I'm going to give them my Arianna. They have a Pointer of the Red Lotus and... oh, it went by too quickly. But the other card was actually from a new set. It was the level 9 Jar monster. The one that has a lot of really good effects if you can manage to, you know, get the flip effect off. But, you know, being a level 9 monster, you gotta tribute set it and then flip it up. So it's a lot of work. But that and a Pointer of the Red Lotus are their last two cards. So... all in all, I'm not super sure exactly what's going on here. And then they decided to give me a Pot of Prosperity. So I feel like this was just like a gift deck. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. They played Gift Exchange and they gave me a really good card. Funnily enough, because they exchanged for my Arianna, they do actually end up getting to activate my Cooclock. Not that, you know, they get to set anything, but... oh, and there it is. There is the Pot of the Forbidden. Has a bunch of effects that emulate banned or once banned cards, but I mean, at this point, it's obviously no problem for me to just go ahead and lay the smack down for the rest of this game here. Yeah, so I mainly wanted to start off with that duel because it showed, like, what is probably just the best turn one you could, if not possible. I'm sure there are better turn ones. Like, if I'd had a bunch of the furniture to set up and just wheel it back as advantage, like, that would have probably been a better turn one, but... in terms of just, like, plays for turn one alone, that was just, like, ridiculous. And, yeah, I don't really know what my opponent was on there, but they ultimately gave me a Prosperity is what their deck achieves. But anyway, don't worry. The other duels are going to be against, like, you know, real decks. So let's go ahead and see another game here. At least I'm pretty sure these duels are going to be against real decks. I mean, again, without the ability to check, I just have to trust past Lex saved some good duels. So... we are going second for this one, okay? I did remember having some amount of going second games here. And we opened a pretty good going second hand here. We got the Furniture, we got the Ash Blossom. Opponent's going to start off with Sword Soul Emergence. Thankfully, we have the Ash Blossom here. I'm really glad that I had, or I guess I should say, I'm really glad my opponent opened with Emergence because Ash Blossom is actually not that great against Sword Soul at all. And Emergence at the start of their plays is like literally the best opportunity to activate it. So we got really lucky in that regard. Anyway, during their end phase, I'm going to fire off both pieces of furniture here, giving up both of my trap cards to set up the Welcome and the Big Welcome. Alright, draw phase, I'm going to draw the Arianna, and I'm going to start by activating Welcome Lab. There is no response to it, so we get the lovely Labrynth here. Opponent is going to flip an Infinite Impermanence on it, though. I'm going to chain the Big Welcome Lab here. That way, the reason I chained a Big Welcome Lab here specifically to the Imperm is I wanted to make sure that I activated this, like, I don't know, I feel like if my opponent had Ash Blossom, they would have used it on the regular Welcome, but I'm like, maybe there's a world where for whatever reason they wanted to save it for the Big Welcome. So I want to make sure that I'm able to activate the Big Welcome before the lovely is negated on the very, very off chance my opponent still has an Ash Blossom. But here, I'm going to use the Big Welcome for the Lady Lab, and I ended up bouncing the Lady Lab back, because I thought about bouncing the Lovely Lab, but I was like, you know, that's still 2,900 damage, so it's like, I might as well keep her on the field. Oh, and Lovely Lab was actually activated on purpose there to chain block the furniture effects. Even though it gets negated, it can still serve as a way to chain block again the Chandragalier and the Stovie Torbie as well. Alright, here we get to normal the Arianna. I'm just going to add the Cooclock and move straight to battle phase, smacking them with both the Lady and the Lovely, sorry, and the Arianna. Then I'm just going to use Stovie with the Dragalier instead of the Big Welcome. That way I can keep the Cooclock and use it if I need to later. Now I have all pieces of furniture in rotation. Opponent's going to activate a card called Synchro Zone, which I've never seen this card before, but it says neither player can declare attacks except with synchro monsters. That's actually relevant, so I need to actually address this card and take care of it. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If a non-tuner synchro monster is sent to the graveyard except during the damage step, you can target one of those monsters, special summon it. And if you do, it's treated as a tuner. So I wonder if that's the effect they're trying to use here. That's actually a really interesting effect. To bring back a Synchro monster and use it as a tuner. Also, during your opponent's main phase, it lets you Synchro summon during their turn. So that's a bit of a cute tech my opponent's got there, but I gotta be honest, I don't really think it's that great. It also completely well, they already emergence, so I was already gonna get the Dimensional Barrier here, but we're absolutely gonna get Dimensional Barrier here, and thanks to the Cooclock, we even have the opportunity to set it up here. And don't worry, we're casually just doing a Chain Link 5 to recoup a whole bunch of advantage. It's absolutely insane. When you can get every bit of Lab's pieces going at once and you're just chaining off all these different effects. We're blowing up a card in our opponent's hand. We're searching off the Arianna. We got back both of our pieces of furniture. Again, we set up a D barrier that we can also use this turn because we have Cooclock. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely activate the D barrier here in response to the Ash Blossom normal summon. Now, funnily enough, you might think like, oh, our opponent's just bad. They're playing Synchro Zone. They're just bad. But the Synchro Zone does present a bit of a unique, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Opportunity for them to make a Baron during our turn. But because we have the Big Welcome Lab in the graveyard, it actually just doesn't matter. And we can bounce back the Ashina anyway. Yeah, Synchro Zone does resolve, but with only a tuner on their field, there's not really much they can do. And yeah, at this point, I'm just amassing enough damage on board to finish them off. And just, resolving all of our effects that we need to anyway. I mean, hell, at this point, I can just normal summon the Dragalier, which is what I do, and then move to battle phase. And yep, that'll be enough to take them out. Oh, they weren't even at 8k. I didn't even realize that until just now. Oh, yeah, they were super done. Alright, we do have a couple more games to check out, so let's go straight into the next one here. Alright, this one's going to be a little bit shorter than the others. I wonder if this was... I feel like I played a game against Kashtira. I wonder if this was that one. Let's see. Let's see what we got here. Looks like we're going second yet again. And we open Furniture and Lady, so even though we don't have any disruption... No, this is a mirror match. Okay. Even though we don't have any, direct disruption, we do at the very least have a lot we can do here. Opponent's going to start off with literally all three pieces of furniture. They have the Cooclock, and then they're using the Stovie Torbie with the Chandragalier. So, setting up the Big Welcome, activating the Cooclock to special summon it back, and then, of course, because of Cooclock, they get to activate the Big Welcome. But because I was able to summon Lady... Because any Labrynth card activated its effect, now I can set up a Welcome of my own when they activate their trap card. So they're going to summon a Lovely and bounce back the Cooclock. Lovely is going to activate, and I don't remember if they try to pop a card in my hand or the face down card. It kind of doesn't matter though, because I have the furniture here, right? It actually just doesn't really matter at all now that I think about it. Alright, furniture is adding back to their hand / summoning to their field. They end up popping the face down Welcome Lab, which can reset itself on my turn. So, oh, they're going for the Chaos Angel here to banish my Lady. This would actually have been a really good play if I didn't have another Lady in my hand anyway, but that was a good call on their part, for sure, for sure. Gonna set up my Big Welcome with the furniture. I don't want to pitch either the Arianna or the Lady, so I'm just gonna send both pieces of furniture. Ooh, this Fenrir was an amazing top deck. I'm gonna start by summoning that. Opponent's going to use the Big Welcome. I'm going to chain the Lady in my hand. And they are able to summon... Looks like the Lovely from the graveyard. I thought that's what it was. I hesitated because I didn't remember. But bouncing the Dragalier. Lovely is going to activate. Tovie gets... Stovie. I keep wanting to call it that. Stovie, rather, gets to recur itself here. Popping my Fenrir makes sense because otherwise it would have banished the Lovely. But... the fact that the Fenrir is able to be a magnet for the pop there is really what made it so good here, right? Because now I can use the Big Welcome and the Lady. They are able to use the Imperm now because I don't have any more set back row cards, but it's fine if the Lady gets negated. I still get to resolve the Big Welcome here for my own Lovely. Now I get to bounce the Arianna. I can pop the Chaos Angel with the field spell. Now I get to Lovely, and now I get to use my own furniture and start recycling mine. And I even get to reset my regular Welcome here. And at this point, they just concede. Because, although they did still have some plays, right? They did still have furniture in their hand. At this point, this is the beginning of the slow grind out. And a lot of control players, with Labrynth, of course, being a very, very good control deck, can kind of recognize when they get to this point in the control mirror, right? Where the tables have shifted in such a way, because, like, yes, my opponent was going off and doing a whole bunch of stuff earlier, but in the process of doing that, they didn't really take too much from me that was vital, but that's not at all what's happening here. Now, I can use the Lovely to pop their Lovely, and while they do still have furniture, I have all the advantage they have and more, and it's easier for me to keep them off their stuff because I'm significantly up in advantage. And before, when they were doing stuff, they were up in advantage, but not by enough to push me out of the game. But that's, again, what I'm doing here is now I have the advantage to push them out of the game. So, one more duel to take a look at. Let's go ahead and hop straight into it here. Alright, let's see what this deck ends up being. Our opponent's name is Bang. So, as in Kashtira Big Bang, we'll have to see. We're going to be going second yet again here. Not a bad going second hand. We have Maxx, Imperm, and Furniture. I am, of course, going to draw phase Maxx, but the opponent has a cross-out designator for it, so there's that, taking out the Maxx. Looks like we do have a relatively fair game of Yu-Gi-Oh! This was the cash game. Okay, so they're going to start with Fenrir for Rise Heart, and then special summon the Rise Heart, and activate the effect. And I'm going to end up letting it resolve here, because I'm like, you know, they don't have access, they haven't shown access to Theosis or Birth or Unicorn or anything, so I'm like, I think they're just going to go Era past, and that's actually what they end up doing. So I'm going to use the Furniture with the Prosperity. I like Prosperity more than Extrav here. They do end up having the Ash Blossom, though, for the Big Welcome, which is unfortunate, but sometimes they have the Ash Blossom. That said, we do have the Extrav, so we definitely still have some amount of options here. I'm going to use Imperm on the Era as it goes to special on monster here. I think this is definitely the moment to use it. Don't want to have to deal with Fenrir on my turn. But I'm really banking on this Extrav. And, well, you know, we did get the Arianna. I was going to say, unfortunately, we got the second Cooclock, but their last back row was the Imperm for the Arianna. So this is one of those games where it really just came down to the opponent having, like, one more piece of Disrupt than I had a piece of gas here, right? Also, yeah, unfortunately, Extrav hit both Entis and Chaos Angel here, so that's why you want multiple copies of those cards, because they're arguably your most useful extra deck cards. And, yeah, now at this point, my opponent's really just able to start going off with Kashtira stuff. Yeah, there are some times where it really just does come down to, like, needing one more card, or your opponent having one more card. And I feel like it was both in this case. I feel like it was not only the opponent's back row ending up being the Imperm, but also drawing the second Cooclock. Because, like, there's so many trap cards we could have drawn that would have been so good. Or just, like, Labrynth cards in general. Funny, now they're blocking off my back row zones now that, you know, they know that I'm on Lab. But, I mean, at this point, they've already got double Era, a Rise Heart. It's, like, so Jover. It's so Jover. Yeah, honestly, I'm just going to throw this game into Fast Forward. We definitely did have a chance there when the opponent only opened with Era. And, yeah, I'm just going to concede at this point even. And I do also want to point out that I don't think it was wrong for us to have not used Imperm on our opponent's turn 1. You might look back at that duel and be like, well, if you had Impermed, then things might have gone differently. But, like, I don't want to Imperm Fenrir because then Fenrir is just up and live on my turn. And, again, when I saw them Fenrir add Rise Heart, I thought to myself, you know, they would have to have opened Theosis or Birth, which, to be fair, is 6 cards, isn't as a decent chance. But I was like, they would have to open one of those. And also, Imperm doesn't really stop that either. At that point, I could, if they even make a Rise Heart on turn 1, just even potentially use the Imperm on the Rise Heart and not have my stuff get banished, if that ended up mattering, which here it ultimately did not. So that's going to go ahead and do it for these games. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let's go ahead and move now to our outro. Alright everybody, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching it all the way to the very end. That means a whole lot to me, and it's also a fantastic way to support the channel. And if you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways besides YouTube, there are plenty of ways to do that. If you check out the description below, you'll find a bunch of links down there. One of them goes to my Patreon. You're actually seeing the names of everyone subscribed to the Patreon on the screen right now. So if you're interested in getting your name in the credits here at the end, if you want to see more daily Master Duel content, or if you're interested in one-on-one private coaching sessions, I offer all of that on Patreon. I also stream live on Twitch. Feel free to go ahead and click that link and follow and or subscribe there. I also have the Discord community, if you want to follow that link, where hundreds of duelists have already signed up. Free to join, and you can just come hang out, talk about the game, and chill in general. Final link that's going to be in the description is my Twitter. You can follow that if you want some more notifications of what's happening with the channel. So, all in all, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.